There's a force more powerful than persuasion, more commanding than charisma, more lethal than argument. It's not what you say, it's what you don't. In a world that rewards noise, the true masters choose something else. They choose silence, not out of fear, not out of weakness, but because they understand something others don't. That silence is strategy. It's armor. It's a mirror. It's a weapon. Every careless word spoken is a door left open. Every secret revealed is a power surrendered. The greatest victories aren't won by those who shout the loudest, but by those who listen, observe, and wait until the perfect moment to act. And when they finally speak, the world listens. This is the lost art of silence. They told us that expression was strength, that the louder we spoke, the more we mattered, that our worth would be measured by how often we shared, how much we revealed, how visible we made ourselves to the world. And so we shouted, we posted, we declared, we flooded every moment with noise, desperate to be seen, desperate to be heard. But somewhere along the way, we forgot something essential. We forgot that silence itself can speak. Louder, clearer, stronger. The ancients knew this. In the courts of kings, in the chambers of power, in the hidden corners where true influence lived, silence wasn't weakness. It was mastery. Those who understood it could walk among the ambitious and the reckless without ever revealing themselves. While others exhausted themselves trying to impress, trying to persuade, trying to outtalk each other, the silent ones simply observed, calculated, waited, and when the time came, they acted, swiftly, decisively, and almost always victoriously. Today, in a world noisier than ever, silence feels alien. It feels uncomfortable, even threatening, but that's only because we've been conditioned to believe that value lies in volume, that truth must always be spoken, that visibility equals power. It doesn't. Power often moves in shadows. It listens while others reveal themselves. It waits while others rush in. It chooses its moments with precision, while others waste theirs in frantic displays. The lost art of silence isn't about muting your voice forever. It's about knowing when not to speak. It's about choosing mystery over explanation, presence over performance, depth over display. Because when you speak less, you lose less. When you hold back, you hold power. And when you let silence stretch between you and the world, something remarkable happens. The world leans in, tries to fill the space you've left behind. It reveals its fears, its hopes, its secrets, without you having to say a single word. This isn't just ancient wisdom. It's a strategy, a discipline, a way of living in a world that has forgotten how much power there is in simply not responding. But silence is not just protection. It's something more. Something that gives you an invisible edge that most people will never see coming. To understand that, we must first understand the hidden cost of every word we speak. The cost we pay without even realizing it. Every time we open our mouths, we trade something away. A little freedom, a little mystery, a little leverage. And most of the time, we don't even notice the price we're paying. Because speech feels natural, automatic, necessary. We speak to explain. We speak to justify. We speak to fill the awkward spaces between us. But behind every casual comment, every impulsive confession, every needless explanation, something vital slips through our fingers. You see, the moment you declare your intentions, you trap yourself inside them. You become predictable. You lose the freedom to pivot, to adapt, to change course without looking inconsistent. Those who speak too soon find themselves chained to words they barely considered. And when circumstances shift, as they always do, they're left exposed, judged not for what they did, but for what they once said they would do. But that's only the first cost. The second is far more dangerous. When you speak, you reveal the architecture of your mind. Every explanation you offer, every defense you mount, every detail you disclose, it gives others a glimpse inside your thinking, your fears, your blind spots, your limitations. The more you talk, the easier you are to read, the easier you are to predict, And once they can predict you, they can control you. In the quiet spaces, you remain a question mark. In the noise of your own voice, you become a map for others to navigate or exploit. And perhaps the most devastating cost of all, speech strips away your mystique. Mystique is what makes others lean closer, is what gives your presence weight, even before you say a single word. But explain yourself too often, justify yourself too quickly, and the aura around you dissolves. You become ordinary, familiar, small. No one is in awe of what they fully understand. In a noisy world, the loud are soon forgotten, but the silent, they haunt the imagination. They become something larger than life precisely because they are not entirely known. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. In a world of ambition and danger, he knew that every spoken word could be a weapon, but more often it was a liability. Today, even in our so-called safer times, the principle holds true. Those who speak compulsively build houses made of glass. Those who master silence build fortresses. And once you begin to see how costly unnecessary speech can be, the path forward becomes clear. You must learn not just when to speak, but when not to, because hidden within the quiet lies a strength that words can never match. But silence isn't merely about withholding. It's about using that absence with intention, with strategy, with purpose. And to do that, we must understand the true faces of silence, the ways it can be shaped, sharpened, and wielded in the real world. Silence, when used with intention, is not passive. It's not emptiness. It's not absence. It's a force, one that can be shaped into different forms depending on what you need and what you seek to create in the world around you. There isn't just one kind of silence. There are many, and the ones who master them move through life with an invisible advantage few ever understand. There are three faces of strategic silence, three ways it quietly bends reality in your favor. The first is the silence of the watchful listener. This is the silence of gathering, of observation, of choosing to listen while others rush to reveal themselves. In a conversation, most people feel an invisible pressure to fill the gaps, to explain, to declare their positions. The one who resists that urge, the one who lets others speak first, holds the upper hand, because people can't help themselves. They leak truths without realizing it. They expose their desires, their fears, their weaknesses, just to break the tension of being unheard. And while they reveal, you collect, you learn. You build a map of the hidden landscape they didn't mean for you to see. The watchful listener wins not by out-talking, but by outweighting, by letting others become the architects of their own exposure. In negotiations, the one who speaks less usually gains more. In conflict, the one who listens most understands best. In relationships, the one who waits quietly often sees what the other cannot hide. But silence can do more than just gather. The second face is the silence of the silent authority. This is the silence that projects power, not because of what is said, but because of what is withheld. The world respects those who do not rush to explain themselves. The leader who speaks sparingly, the thinker who chooses words like weapons, the individual who does not justify every choice. These figures command attention without even asking for it. Because in the human mind, scarcity creates value. When words are rare, they weigh more. When responses are selective, they echo longer. The silent authority doesn't chatter. They don't defend every move. They let the world wonder. And in that wondering, respect is born. It's not about arrogance. It's about understanding human nature, that we value what feels just out of reach, and we admire what seems just beyond our grasp. And yet, there's a third and even more powerful face of silence. The keeper of mysteries. This is the silence that preserves ambiguity, that deliberately refuses to be pinned down or fully understood. When you are unclear by design, when you allow others to interpret you through their own hopes and fears, you gain a freedom most people will never know. You become many things to many people, a hope to some, a threat to others, an enigma to all. The keeper of mysteries does not rush to clarify, does not rush to correct misconceptions. They understand that letting people guess gives you far more room to move than letting them know for certain. Because once you are fully defined, you are limited. But when you remain undefined, You are limitless. This kind of silence is not deception. It's wisdom. It's the deep understanding that clarity, too soon, often kills opportunity. The best negotiators, the most compelling leaders, the most magnetic individuals, all know this truth. Sometimes the greatest advantage is to leave some questions unanswered. The watchful listener gathers. The silent authority commands. The keeper of mysteries transcends. 3 faces of silence. 3 weapons hidden in plain sight. But to truly wield them, you must first understand the invisible ways silence transforms the very psychology of those around you. Because silence doesn't just protect you. It shapes what others see, what they feel, and most importantly, what they believe about you. Silence doesn't just change how you move through the world. It changes how the world moves around you. Because in the empty spaces you create by withholding your words, something strange and powerful begins to happen. People start to fill in the gaps. They project. They assume. They imagine. Human beings hate uncertainty. When faced with silence, the mind rushes to invent explanations, to connect dots that were never actually drawn. And the more silent you remain, the more control you gain, without ever needing to force it. If you stay quiet at the right moments, you become a mirror. People don't see you. They see themselves reflected in you. Their hopes, their fears, their judgments, and in revealing their projections, they reveal their vulnerabilities. This is why a skilled interrogator doesn't pressure with endless questions. They sit back. They allow the uncomfortable silence to stretch. And in that unbearable space, the subject inevitably talks. They confess things they never intended to share. Because silence feels like a demand. A heavy, invisible presence pressing down, coaxing out what words could never force. The same happens in negotiation. The party who can sit in silence without flinching always has the advantage. Because silence creates discomfort. And discomfort leads the other side to overreach, over-explain, over-promise, just to escape the tension. It happens in relationships too. The one who listens more than they speak often sees what is hidden behind the smiles, the reassurances, the polite performances. Because when you're not busy inserting yourself, you notice the subtle shifts, the nervous tells, the contradictions. You see the truth underneath the words. And perhaps most fascinating of all, silence can flip the power dynamic entirely. The person who talks the most in a room usually seeks approval, validation, agreement. But the person who sits quietly, speaks sparingly, and listens intently, they become the silent judge, the one whose approval others seek. Without ever needing to say it, you position yourself as the authority. Because in human dynamics, the less you need from others, the more they seem to need from you. And there's one final psychological effect. One that silence masters understand better than anyone. Mystique. The less people know about you, the more they imagine. And what they imagine is almost always larger, grander, and more formidable than the reality. The leader who explains every decision becomes relatable, but loses reverence. The one who speaks only when necessary and leaves much unsaid keeps a sense of awe intact. The friend who shares every secret soon becomes ordinary. The one who reveals carefully, slowly, with thought and restraint becomes unforgettable. Because what we cannot fully grasp, we often elevate in our minds. Mystique doesn't come from showing everything. It comes from showing just enough and withholding the rest. And silence is the canvas on which mystique is painted. It's not about pretending. It's not about manipulation. It's about understanding a simple, ancient truth. What is rare is precious. What is hidden is powerful. What is silent is unforgettable. But in a world obsessed with openness and confession, there is a growing danger, a trap that many fall into without ever realizing it. A trap disguised as virtue, as honesty, as authenticity, and unless you recognize it, you will surrender your power without even noticing it's happening. The world will tell you to share everything. Show your process, reveal your fears, lay bare your intentions, confess your mistakes. They will call it authenticity. They will call it bravery. They will even call it love. And if you listen too closely, you will believe them. You will mistake exposure for strength. You will mistake confession for connection. You will mistake visibility for power. But real power, the kind that endures, doesn't come from emptying yourself out for the world to see. It comes from knowing what to reveal and what to withhold, what to share and what to guard fiercely. Because the modern cult of transparency is not neutral. It demands something from you. It demands that you bind yourself to your words, to your mistakes, to your declarations, even when the world around you changes and your instincts beg you to adapt. When you reveal too much too soon, you lock yourself inside a story you may later need to escape. You give away the one thing every strategist, every leader, every wise soul cherishes above all else. Freedom. The freedom to pivot. The freedom to evolve. The freedom to act without having to explain yourself to those who feel entitled to your inner world. Transparency, when demanded, is not intimacy. It's a leash. It allows others to define you, to predict you, to judge you before your work is even finished, before your path is even clear. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you become ordinary, predictable, tamed. Machiavelli warned against binding yourself to promises made under different circumstances. He understood that the world is not static. It shifts, it turns, it demands flexibility from those who wish to survive and thrive within it. The transparent person shackles themselves to their past words. The silent strategist preserves their future. This does not mean you must live in deception. It does not mean you must lie. It simply means you must become selective. Discretion is not dishonesty. Privacy is not weakness. Silence is not cowardice. It is strategy. Because not every emotion needs an audience. Not every thought needs a stage. Not every dream needs to be dissected before it has even begun to grow. When you practice radical transparency, you offer your vulnerabilities up like gifts to the world. Gifts that are often neither appreciated nor protected. When you practice strategic silence, you honor your own evolution. You give yourself space to change without apology. You preserve your mystery, your leverage, your freedom. And in a world that glorifies noise and confession, that kind of freedom becomes revolutionary. But how do you do it? How do you resist the pressure to overshare? How do you build the discipline to know when to speak, when to remain silent, and how to wield that silence with purpose? It's not a gift you're born with. It's a craft you can practice. And once you learn it, the way you move through the world will never be the same. Strategic silence isn't something you stumble into by accident. It's not natural in a world addicted to immediacy and exposure. It must be cultivated, sharpened, chosen again and again until it becomes second nature. And it begins with a simple but powerful shift. Learn before you speak. Before you reveal your position in any negotiation, in any conversation, in any conflict, pause. Listen. Watch. Gather what others are too impatient to hide. Let them fill the silence with their ambitions, their fears, their doubts. Let them map the battlefield while you remain an uncharted territory. Information is power, but most people give it away simply to feel heard. You must resist that pull. Ask questions instead of making declarations. Listen not just to words, but to what remains unspoken. The hesitations, the contradictions, the emotions buried beneath the surface. Because when you understand more than you reveal, you see further than others can imagine. But silence is not only for gathering, it is also for preserving. Cultivate strategic ambiguity. Not every detail needs to be decided aloud. Not every intention needs to be made visible. Sometimes the wisest answer to a question is a smile. Sometimes the strongest position is the one not taken, at least not yet. When you keep your strategies fluid, your opponents cannot predict you. When you keep your feelings private, others cannot manipulate them. When you keep your next move hidden, the field remains yours to control. This isn't about being evasive. It's about being free. Because clarity, when demanded too early, is a cage. And ambiguity, when used with intention, is a key. Finally, perhaps the most challenging and most powerful practice, embrace the discomfort of silence. Silence will feel heavy at first, unnatural, even painful. In conversations, you will be tempted to fill the gaps, to rush into the awkward spaces, to reassure, to explain. Don't. Let the silence breathe. Let it stretch. Let it work for you. Because the one who can hold silence longer holds the frame of the interaction. They set the tempo. They choose the rhythm. In negotiations, say your piece, then wait. In conflicts, listen to criticism fully before you respond, if you respond at all. In leadership, make your decisions clear, but do not dilute them with endless justifications. Most people will rush to fill the quiet. They will reveal themselves. They will offer concessions. They will crumble under the weight of what you refuse to fear. And you, standing still, calm, silent, will watch as the world moves toward you. This discipline is not cultivated overnight. It demands patience, restraint, awareness. But every moment you practice it, you sharpen a blade few others even know exists. You stop reacting. You start observing. You stop explaining. You start commanding. You stop surrendering your power. You start owning it, silently, steadily, unmistakably. And when you master the discipline of strategic silence, you no longer need to announce your worth. It speaks for itself. In every room you enter, in every negotiation you face, in every relationship you build. And in a noisy, frantic world obsessed with performance, those who carry silence like a sword will always move unseen and win unseen. But the greatest secret of all, the ones who win through silence often aren't even noticed until it's far too late. In a world that worships volume, that mistakes noise for knowledge and confession for courage, silence has become a lost art. But for those who can reclaim it, silence becomes a weapon more potent than any shouted demand, any frantic explanation, any desperate performance. Because while others race to be heard, you learn to watch. While others reveal themselves without restraint, you learn to wait. While others exhaust themselves trying to prove their worth, you learn to move in stillness, letting your presence alone shift the ground beneath their feet. True power isn't always seen. True influence isn't always heard. Sometimes the ones who shape the world the most are the ones who say the least. They don't need to declare their plans. They don't need to justify their actions. They don't need to perform their victories for the approval of the crowd. They simply prevail, quietly, steadily, inevitably, and in the end, it's not the loudest voice that echoes through time. It's the one that speaks only when it matters, and whose silence lingers long after the noise has faded. Remember this: you don't have to compete in the endless shouting match the world invites you into. You don't have to reveal your every thought, your every plan, your every dream to be real, to be true, to be powerful. The strongest trees do not boast of their roots. The deepest rivers make the least noise. And the wisest among us are often the ones who say the least and achieve the most. So choose your words as a master chooses his weapons. Speak with purpose. Hold your silence with pride. And let the emptiness between your words do what noise never could. Command attention, evoke wonder, and leave a mark that echoes far beyond anything you could ever say. In the end, those who master silence don't just survive this noisy world. They rule it, silently, absolutely, forever. If these ideas spoke to something deeper inside you, if you feel the power of moving through the world more quietly, more intentionally, then this is just the beginning. Subscribe now and step into a different way of seeing. A way where less noise means more strength. Where silence is not emptiness, but mastery. Welcome to the place where the quiet prevail.